Welcome to a new deep dive. Today, we're launching into, well, a pretty fascinating corner of the role-playing universe. This whole idea of experiencing a full-blown science fiction saga completely on your own.
Yeah, solo. And we're specifically zeroing in on the classic space opera setting of Traveler.
Right, Traveler. And there's a system designed just for that, for one player.
Exactly. We've been digging into a bunch of sources for this, bits from a rulebook actually built for playing Traveler alone, and this related article that really gets into the feel of solo play.
Okay, so our mission here is to unpack that. We want to get a handle on what Solo Traveler actually is, how it manages to create these surprisingly complex stories without a referee or a group.
Yeah, how does that even work?
What makes it engaging, how the characters develop, and just the sheer range of adventures you can have, even when it's just you.
So, get ready for a shortcut, basically. A shortcut to understanding how just one player can generate unexpected plots, really dramatic moments, deep character stuff. All by themselves, out there among the stars.
Okay, let's kick this off then. At its heart, what is Solo Traveler role-playing? Because when I first hear playing an RPG by yourself, I kind of picture someone just talking to themselves.
Huh. Yeah, that's the usual first thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the sources make it clear it's much more dynamic than that. It's not just narrating.
And it's not playing against yourself, like chess.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
The core idea is letting a single player really immerse themselves in that fictional universe,
Yeah.
get properly tangled up in plots, face tough choices, and actually get that same kind of satisfaction, success, achievement that you normally get from playing with a group.
Okay, so you're not just your character, you're also kind of shaping the world around them. How does that work?
Precisely. You're the player, making decisions for your characters, sure, but you've also got this sort of meta-level creative job. You're taking random results from dice, from tables, and you're interpreting them, developing situations, bringing NPCs, organizations, plots, even whole worlds into being based on those prompts.
So the creative act itself is a big part of the fun.
Oh, absolutely integral. You're kind of like the lead actor and the director in an improvised play.
And the point isn't strict realism or following some pre-written story because, well, there isn't one.
Not at all. The sources really hammer this home. The enjoyment comes from the mix of three things. You need dice, drama, and decision-making. Take one away and it kind of falls flat.
Dice, drama, decision-making. Okay.
The dice give you the unexpected stuff, the twists. You then create the drama out of those twists, and your decisions are how you navigate the fallout.
I like that idea of an improvised sci-fi movie. The dice rolls are like script cues you didn't expect.
Exactly like that. They throw things at you couldn't have planned for, and your job, your creative task, is to weave those into something intense, something dramatic. It's improv, yeah, but with a framework, a system that gives you those cues. And, crucially, they surprise you, the player, too.
And this specific system, ESLO, it's tailored for Traveler, right?
Yeah.
That's important.
Yes, very key. It sticks to the Traveler universe, or Traveler-like settings. So the event tables, the prompts, they're full of meaningful genre-specific stuff. Starship problems, weird alien creatures, red tape on some high-tech world, pirates.
Stuff you immediately get if you know Traveler.
Exactly. It avoids that generic story game language you sometimes see. The results feel specific, actionable within this sci-fi world.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. What's interesting about the solo system is who you're playing. It seems a bit different from some other solo games out there.
It is, yeah. A lot of solo engines really zoom right in, focusing on the tiny details of what one single character is doing. Lots of questions like, do I have a torch? Do the guards see me? Is the door locked? You end up rolling dice for loads of little things.
Which sounds like it could slow things right down, get bogged down.
It really can. Solo steps back a bit. It pulls the focus out to the group.
Yeah.
The emphasis is generally on playing a whole unit of characters, usually a starship crew, right? Like cargo haulers, corporate troubleshooters, asteroid miners, scouts.
So not just one lonely guy in space.
You could do that. Run a single PC campaign. But the book itself kind of suggests you'd miss out on a lot of the potential for dramatic role-playing if you did. Playing the group is where a lot of the magic happens.
So you're making decisions more at the crew level. What do we do now?
Exactly. You're focused on the group's goals, how they plan together to achieve something, and then dealing with the consequences for everybody. It lets you skip over some of those really micro details and keep the story moving, focused on the bigger actions and the crew's reactions.
And what's the real payoff for doing that, focusing on the group dynamics, even when you're playing alone?
Well, one of the most compelling things in the source material is how character secrets their motivations. They aren't just stuff you write down beforehand and then, remember. They actually get revealed during play.
Revealed even to you, the player.
Yeah. Events happen, choices get made, and suddenly you're surprised by what one of your characters does or what their reaction tells you about their past. It's like discovering who your crewmates really are in real time. Relationships form or get strained based on what happens. It mimics that found family feel of a crew facing danger together.
Okay, so you've got your crew navigating the stars, but without a GM pulling the strings, how does this system actually build a plot? Where does the story come from?
Right. The narrative thread. The sources suggest starting with a mission assignment. That's your initial catalyst.
Gives you a reason to be there.
Exactly. A focus, something to react to, prompts the first plans and decisions.
But the story isn't planned out beyond that initial mission brief.
Not at all. From that point, the plot grows organically. You do stuff related to the mission, and along the way, you're dealing with random dice rolls, you're meeting NPCs that are generated on the fly, you're facing random events the system throws in. And your job is, your crucial role as the solo player is to interpret all that, to actively look for connections, for patterns, to connect the dots between these random bits and see if they form a bigger picture, a larger scenario. This is where the idea of storylines comes in. That's what the source calls them. They're connections you spot between events, between encounters, that seem to have extra meaning, more weight than just a one-off problem.
So you're playing detective with the random rolls.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. You're looking for significance, and when you think you've found a storyline thread, you use later encounters, later interactions to develop it. Turn it into dramatic moments. Maybe someone's secretly sabotaging things. Maybe that NPC has a hidden agenda. Maybe the situation is testing the crew's loyalty to each other. You work towards bringing that storyline to some kind of satisfying conclusion.
But sometimes a potential storyline might just fizzle out.
Absolutely. Maybe that suspicious character just vanishes. Maybe a clue leads nowhere. The source says that's perfectly fine. You just treat them as red herrings or unresolved subplots, which honestly adds a bit of realism, doesn't it?
Yeah, life's full of loose ends. And the random encounters, those are the specific things the system throws at you.
Exactly. You check for them regularly, like during travel or while on a mission. It's the system's way of injecting new stuff. New NPCs, new challenges, unexpected events, maybe even disasters.
Not always bad stuff, though.
No, not always dangerous. They might provide new problems, sure, but also potential friends, unexpected enemies, or just interesting things in the environment. And as they happen, you're always asking, could this be part of a storyline? Does this connect to someone's backstory? You try to weave them in if they fit. But, sometimes an encounter is just an encounter. A discrete challenge to overcome.
It really reinforces that the goal isn't just like ticking boxes on a mission or making the most money.
Right. The source is really clear on this. The main goal isn't really just completing the task, whether it's trading or mining or whatever. Those activities, they're often just the excuse to get the characters into interesting, dramatic situations in this dangerous, unpredictable universe. That's where the storylines emerge. The real fun is getting caught up in those.
Okay, so with all this plot bubbling up spontaneously and random stuff happening, how do you figure out what happens next? How do you resolve actions or complex situations when there's no GM to make a call?
Right. The resolution mechanics. This is where the system basically hands you the GM toolkit you need. There are a few different methods. First, you've got your standard task resolution.
That sounds familiar, like a regular skill check.
Pretty much. You use it for a specific action by one character, trying a tricky piloting move, trying to talk your way past a guard, that kind of thing. Standard skill roll.
Okay, makes sense. But what about bigger things? Things involving the whole crew, maybe taking longer.
Exactly. For more complex stuff, drawn-out tasks, maybe involving multiple characters over minutes or hours in the game. Like, say, trying to repair a seriously damaged ship system, or rescuing someone from a burning building. You use scene resolution.
Okay, how does that work? You don't play out every single second.
No, that would bog things down again. Instead, you, the player, come up with a plan. Plan for the group. Just a short description, maybe 3 or 4 sentences. How are they going to approach this?
Like, okay, we'll use the ship's winch to lift the debris while Maya tries to bypass the security lock and Jax keeps watch. Something like that.
Perfect. You state the goal, the basic approach. Then you judge the plan. Is it, inherently risky? A bit shaky? Or is it a solid plan? Maybe even foolproof given their skills. You also decide if the situation itself is safe or dangerous.
And then you roll.
Then you make one single dice roll,
Mm-hmm.
and you check a special table. the interpreting success and failure table.
And that tells you more than just yes or no, I take.
Oh yeah, this is key for solo play. The results are designed to generate more story, more twists. They range from yes and amazingly,
Yeah.
like total success plus a huge bonus or discovery,
Wow.
all the way down to no and amazingly, which means not only did you fail, but something disastrous also happens, changing the whole situation.
Ouch.
And in between, you've got yes and, success with a bonus, yes but, success but with a cost or complication, and the no versions to no but, failure but with a silver lining or new opportunity, and no and, failure plus a negative consequence.
Can you give an example? Like the fungus thing from the source.
Right. So trying first aid on someone covered in weird fungus, a no but result might mean she stays unconscious, but hey, the fungus starts falling off if you can study it. A no and could mean she doesn't wake up and the fungus jumped to the medic's hand. Instant drama.
That definitely keeps things moving, adds unexpected turns.
Absolutely. Forces the story in new directions.
Yeah.
Now, what if it's just a simple yes-no question? Like, is the escape shuttle still there? Or will the contact betray us? For those, you use yes-no questions resolved with dice, usually 1d6 for a straight 50-50 chance. Or if you think the answer is more likely yes or no, you might roll 2d6 and take the higher die for likely yes or the lower die for likely no.
And these have twists too, like the and or but.
They do. Same principle. And makes the result stronger. Yes, and means the shuttle's there and is fueled and ready. No, and means it's gone and the landing pad is now blocked.
And but adds a complication or a small positive.
Exactly. Yes, but means the shuttle's there, but guards are watching it. No, but means it's gone, but hey, there's a beat-up old ground car nearby you might be able to fix.
The source mentioned not rolling for every little thing, though.
Crucial point. Don't roll if the answer is obvious or trivial, like how many chairs are in the room, did your character tie their boots? Just decide that stuff. Only roll when the answer really matters to the plot, and you, the player, genuinely want the dice to surprise you.
Okay. What if you need info that isn't just yes-no and isn't covered by a specific table? Like, how good is this piece of gear we found?
That's where you ask the d6. Just a single six-sided die. You can use it for quality, for example. Roll a d6 for that gear. 1-2 might mean it's junk, barely works. 5-6, it's top-notch, pristine condition, simple scale. You can also use it for surprise. This is for tense moments. You ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could realistically happen right now? Maybe you're wading through a swamp. You roll a d6. On a 1, that worst thing happens. Boom, ambush predators burst out of the water. It injects sudden danger. But the advice is, don't overdo it, or the game just becomes constant chaos. Use it sparingly for impact.
And then sometimes you just decide.
Exactly. Just decide. If rolling feels silly, or the outcome seems obvious based on the situation, you're the director here. Just make the call yourself.
You mentioned inspiration tables earlier, too. Things like ship, urban, wilds, or action theme. How do they fit in?
Right, the inspiration tables. These are great. They're usually D66 tables. You roll 2 dice, 1 for 10s, 1 for units, giving results 11 to 66. You use them to add flavor, details, or just spark ideas when you're a bit stuck.
Oh.
Say you roll on an action table and get investigate, and on theme table you get legacy. You combine those words based on what's happening. Maybe the NPC you just met is investigating something about their family's legacy. Or maybe it suggests a flashback for one of your characters. Or it could just give you an idea for the next scene. They're really flexible idea generators.
Now, character creation in Traveler, it's famously detailed, isn't it? Almost a game before the game. How does that depth fit into the solo experience?
Oh, absolutely. The source treats character creation as a real highlight, a pleasure in itself. Calls it a prequel to the actual game. The trick the solo system emphasizes is using all those dice rolls, the career paths, the events, the mishaps, to actively create backstory.
So it's not just about the final stats.
Not at all. Traveler's built-in event and mishap rules are perfect fuel for this. You interpret the roles narratively. Why did they fail that survival roll? What actually happened? That becomes part of their history. Interestingly, the source advises against using the standard connections rule from Traveler, suggesting that life events and relationships that emerge during play work better for solo.
And the stats themselves, strength, dexterity, education, social standing, they're more than just numbers.
Yeah, the system encourages you to see them as personality prompts. Low dexterity might not just mean physically clumsy. Maybe it suggests a lack of social grace, blurting things out. High education could mean they're a fascinating talker, full of trivia. High social standing might mean they're comfortable schmoozing in high society, or maybe they feel stifled by it. You interpret the numbers.
And the career roles feed into this too. Successes and failures.
Definitely. Failing a survival role badly could mean a specific defining injury or trauma. Barely scraping through an advancement role might mean someone pulled strings, or maybe they overcame significant opposition. You invent the story behind the role, and each character gets a significant life event. This is a hook, often drawn from those career events or mishaps. It's something unresolved from their past that can cause trouble later. The D66 table mentioned has great prompts. Made a terrible mistake, made an enemy, had to create a new identity, has an addiction, wrongly imprisoned, betrayed by a friend.
Those sound like instant plot generators.
They really are. Perfect seeds for future storylines. Now, for mustering out getting your final benefits, the system suggests being quite stingy with cash bonuses, unless the crew needs to buy a ship straight away.
Why is that?
The thinking is, poverty breeds risk-taking. If the crew needs money, they're more likely to take dangerous jobs, which leads to more drama. So, benefits like ship shares or even getting a whole starship, re-roll them as cash, keep them hungry.
Makes sense for driving the story. How do you make sure the group actually has the skills they need to function, though? Like, fly the ship, fix the engine.
Good question. The system points towards using skill packages from the main Traveler rules. You can either pick packages during creation to make sure all bases are covered, or roll skills randomly and then use a package to sort of top up or distribute necessary skills among the crew afterwards. And for instant internal drama, there's a D66 relationship table. You roll this for pairs of characters to define their dynamic. Things like secretly in love, competitive rival, blames the other for something bad, knows a dark secret, or just constant arguing.
Oh, that's fantastic. Builds in friction right from the start.
It really does. And the overall message from the sources is, let the characters evolve. Don't get too fixed on your initial ideas. Secrets, true motives. They often come out during play, prompted by events. You might even find yourself sympathizing more with a different character than the one you started with as your main.
Okay, so it sounds like this solo system is really geared towards that classic free traveler's experience, right? Adventuring, seeking fortune.
That's the default, yeah.
Yeah.
The classic 1977 vibe. Characters from different backgrounds, maybe owning a ship, jumping from system to system, looking for patrons, lost tech, whatever adventure comes their way.
But the source mentioned it can be adapted for other campaign styles, too.
Absolutely. The core rules are the engine, but you can swap in different dashboards, basically. Tailored tables and sometimes specific subsystems for different kinds of campaigns, like Star Traders.
Okay, so that's all about hauling cargo, making money.
That's the surface goal, yeah. Staying solvent, managing finances, those records actually matter. But the real fun, the source stresses, is still the sci-fi interactions and adventures that happen around the trading. The trade rules become plot hooks. You're choosing routes, making notes about the world's climate, interesting places, local issues. There's a great example in the source about a crew hauling timber. A random world encounter gets them involved with an off-worlder needing help. Boom, plot seed. Then later, a starport encounter roll leads to them overhearing people plotting to hijack their ship right there on the ramp.
Wow, that goes from routine to deadly serious very quickly.
Exactly. It shows how random events just stack up and create a storyline fast. And it highlights how character backgrounds matter. One character's crime family past makes her want to handle it quietly. Another's inexperience makes her defer.
Then there are scouts. That sounds very different. Pure exploration.
Pretty much. It's all about mapping the unknown, filling in the blanks on the map, as the source puts it. You're generating star systems, figuring out main world stats like size, atmosphere, hydrographics, naming planets, 0509 beta, 0509 gamma. Even travel times within the system are randomized.
So what's the gameplay loop? Just mapping?
Surveying specific targets is the core activity. But the uncertainty comes from the survey problems table. You roll on this, and things go wrong. Equipment breaks, someone gets lost or injured, weird wildlife interferes. You have to interpret these based on the planet and the crew. The example given is fantastic.
Tell me about the crew in that example.
Okay, you've got Captain Garmin, an ex-pirate, astrogator Myole, from a rich family terrified of failure, Science Officer Kuta from an iceball colony has a powerful enemy, was betrayed by a friend. And Engineer Van Hoon lost his son, has an addiction, carries a dark secret.
Wow, that's a lot of baggage, ripe for drama.
Totally. So they hit survey problems, difficult terrain, damaged gear. Then Kuta has trouble with her computer processing data, a random result. But the player ties it to her backstory. Her past betrayal makes her paranoid about her data. She withdraws, refuses to work. This personal drama, sparked by a random event interpreted through character history, directly impacts the mission. They can't finish the survey without her data.
That's a really powerful illustration of how character and mechanics weave together.
It really is. Then you've got naval officers, military campaigns, patrol, security, challenging suspect ships, dealing with threats, chain of command, mission briefings with threat levels, patrol plans. It uses specific tables for things like ship reactions or finding ship secrets during inspections.
And salvagers? Sounds gritty. Exploring wrecks?
That's exactly. Exploring derelicts, prospecting asteroids or gas giants. There are procedures for finding sites, traveling there, and doing the work. And again, random tables, a daily role for mining problems that throw wrenches in the works. Equipment failure, hazards, maybe finding squatters. It also includes rules for randomized interiors for stations and ships using schematics and nodes, letting you explore or raid these places room by room. You can find them active or cold and dark.
Cool. And lastly, mercenaries.
Running a small merc unit, maybe 6 to 8 soldiers, plus some NPC backup. You take on one-off missions, raids, protection details, etc. in different battle zones. Urban combat, rural war-torn, frontline. Each has unique encounter tables and complications. The NPC team is less reliable. Their failures can cause casualties. There's even a monthly War Takes a Turn role that affects the bigger picture. The example shows a team planning a raid. They use a contact for info, devise a sneaky plan. Then an initial character reaction roll fails. One rogue loses his temper, another gives advice. The player immediately links this to their history, where the first merc's temper cost them before. Shows how character stuff impacts things right from the planning stage. Okay, with all this stuff happening, the interpretation, the random events, the character moments, the source makes a point about writing it down, even playing solo. Why bother keeping a campaign diary? Who are you writing it for? It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? But the source gives 2 really solid reasons. First, it's about making things concrete, a declaration. Once you write down what happened or how you interpreted a role, it feels fixed, real within your game world. Once written in ink, it cannot be revoked, as they put it dramatically.
Stops you from fudging things later or just forgetting.
Exactly. It gives the narrative stability. And second, it's just practical. You stop playing, maybe mid-session. How do you remember exactly where everyone was, what was happening, what the current situation was? The diary lets you pick right back up easily.
So let's bring this all together for the listener. What's the big appeal here? Why dive into Solo Traveler?
Well, I think it offers this unique blend. You get that deep satisfaction of achieving things. Like in traditional RPGs, you get the immersion of exploring this incredibly rich sci-fi universe, but you also get the genuine surprise of a story that feels like it's unfolding organically, unpredictably. And it's all driven by your choices, your interpretations of these random prompts.
It sounds incredibly creative, actually. Very personal.
It really is. You're constantly inventing, connecting dots, weaving things together. You end up with these adventures that are totally unique to you. It's strong proof, I think, that you don't need a whole group to find intense drama, make meaningful decisions, and uncover really surprising stories out there among the stars.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Solo Traveler. It's definitely a fascinating part of the hobby.
My pleasure. It was fun digging into it.
So here's something to think about. In Solo Traveler, you're the explorer, you're the whole crew, and in a way, you're even the universe throwing challenges at yourself. But even though you're holding all the cards, the story that emerges can still genuinely surprise you. What unpredictable adventure would you end up creating out there?